Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to New Wave Global. I'm Rabia Mehmood. Today we are here in front of you again, continuing our coverage of the Palestine story and most recently the coverage of the ICJ's preliminary ruling on the case of South Africa versus Israel, the genocide case as it is being called. We've seen that. The ruling has come on Friday, and it calls for provisional measures and has called for cessation of hostilities. Some are not happy that it was not an explicit order of ceasefire, but we spoke to Dr. Francis Boyle, an expert on the matter, and he said it's de facto ceasefire. That is there, and there are multiple opinions on that, but it is a historic win, and it is being looked at as a symbolic and historic win. But we have also seen that the United States and Canada and the UK have suspended the aid to UNRWA, which is the United Nations primary agency providing relief to Palestinians in Gaza, and this is being looked at as a horrible decision, if I can call it that, by people and experts everywhere. We are joined here today by a special guest, Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, who is the Secretary General of Palestinian National Initiative, democratic and social movement, and he is also a former minister. He used to be the Minister of Information. He's a physician and activist and based out of Ramallah. Dr. Barghouti, thank you so much for joining us on an extremely short notice. Welcome to the show. Sir,
Thank you.
we would like your comment at the beginning and quickly on the suspension of aid. We have seen some of your tweets about the issue, but how do you see that?
We see it as a very shameful act by the United States of America, Australia, Italy, and Canada so far. They are punishing the victim. And instead of punishing Israel for the crimes it is committing in Palestine, which has taken the lives of no less than 32,000 Palestinians, if we count those under the rubble, including 11,000 children, and injured 64,000 Palestinians. But most important, this is happening. This cut of aid is happening to one of the most vital institutions now in provision of humanitarian aid to Palestinians, providing medications, providing healthcare, providing shelters to the people who are evicted from their homes. And yet they are punishing it for Israeli because of some Israeli claims. And when exactly after the ICJ has ruled out that there is a very serious suspicion of genocide committed by Israel, and demanded that Israel would allow access to humanitarian aid immediately. The United States and Canada and Australia and Italy are now punishing the UNRWA for doing its humanitarian job, without punishing Israel for killing at least 102 of UNRWA workers by shooting them. These are health professionals, drivers, aid workers. Israel killed them indiscriminately. And now they are punishing the UNRWA, United Nations agency, in this act, which is very strange and I would say absolutely shameful.
Yes, and experts have called it a coordinated attack, basically, because of the timing of this incident. And of course, the Israeli government has repeatedly criticized the UN and tried to undermine its efforts at providing relief and intervening in this conflict. So, as we've seen since October 7th, so we are also seeing that there is a bit of a mixed reaction. We understand the reaction from the Gaza Strip coming from there, because this is not an immediate ceasefire. As far as they are concerned, the bombing continues. Dozens have died in the past 24 hours, and they are showing their disappointment. And we also see like that from the Palestinian activists and otherwise in the diaspora as well, that there is a mixed reaction, and yet at the same time, experts and others are calling it a win. And like we've quoted that, international law experts are saying this is a de facto ceasefire. So how do you see that divide and very legitimate opinions by all sides?
Of course, Palestinians have the right to be a bit disappointed because the court did not call for immediate ceasefire and, in a way, allowed Israel to continue killing Palestinians. And there is another point of disappointment because the court called for the release of Israeli prisoners, but never mentioned the Palestinian prisoners. Although we are talking about 130 maybe Israeli prisoners versus around 11,000 Palestinian prisoners now, if we count those in Gaza and in the West Bank. Nevertheless, I think it's a historical resolution, a historical ruling, because it, for the first time in 75 years, Israel is held accountable in front of international law, and it is stripped of its impunity that was given to Israel, by the United States and Western countries for all these 75 years. Israel committed a whole huge crime in 1948, evicting 70% of the Palestinian people in the worst act of ethnic cleansing. It killed more than 120,000 Palestinians during these years till the 7th of October. It imprisoned more than 1 million Palestinians. And it attacked Gaza 5 times before this last war, killing and destroying and doing everything. And Israel is occupying us since 56 years and created a system of apartheid and was never held accountable. So the fact that Israel is now in the court having to defend itself from the accusation of genocide is by itself a great achievement, because it means that Israel has to be accountable like everybody else. The second point is that what the court actually demanded from Israel and from the Israeli army, which is to stop killing civilians and to prevent killing civilians and to prevent advocacy of killing Palestinians and genocide, and asking Israel to allow humanitarian aid immediately, all of that cannot be implemented without complete and total ceasefire. It's impossible. Impossible to have real aid without a ceasefire, impossible to stop killing people without ceasefire. So in a way, the court said there should be a ceasefire, but not directly. Of course, Israel is rejecting the court and reject any international legitimacy for which it should be punished. But one more thing, I think this court, the ruling of the court, has also opened the door for 2 things. First of all, for Algeria to go to the Security Council of the United Nations and demand ceasefire there again, putting the United States in front of a responsibility, and we'll see what they will do. And second, it actually opened the door wide to conducting boycott, divestment, sanctions activities against Israel, as long as it continues with this war, as long as it continues with the system of apartheid, racial discrimination, and the acts of genocide.
Yes, sir. And how do you, you've mentioned Algeria, how do you see the role of other allies? We've seen there's a list of countries which are supporting South Africa in some form, some more were more forthcoming. Pakistan itself has welcomed the hearing and again said that none of the court's orders can be implemented without a ceasefire, said the same. So how do you see the allies of Palestine and member states playing more of a role to help the Palestinian case?
We appreciate so much the position of South Africa and all those who supported, all countries that supported the South African case, including Pakistan, of course. And we appreciate that. And we hope that they continue to support the case in the courts. But we want more than that. I think the 57 Arab and Muslim countries have promised that they will break the siege on Gaza, and they didn't do anything. And I proposed from the very first day of their meeting that they should send a convoy representing all the 57 Arab and Muslim countries, including with them major humanitarian organizations like UNICEF, WHO, UNRWA and others, and break the siege on Gaza to bring in humanitarian aid. We're not asking these countries to send their armies or to fight Israel, but we're asking to challenge Israel with a humanitarian convoy and tell Israel you cannot just continue to do what you do, depriving people from food, depriving people from medicines. We have people who have been operated on without anesthesia. We have people who had their legs amputated without anesthesia. We have children who were operated on without anesthesia because Israel is not allowing the medications to Gaza. We have people who are dying because there is no antibiotics and no other basic medicines like for heart diseases and hypertension and diabetes. Children with diabetes do not have insulin. This all has to stop. And I think that the 57 countries should form this convoy and challenge Israel. Will Israel bombard a convoy representing 57 countries? I think that would be very difficult. But without challenging Israel, Israel will continue this barbaric behavior against the Palestinian people.
One more question on the situation in the West Bank, in Jerusalem. We've been seeing that there are at least over 300 people who have been killed in the occupied territories, and over 4,000 people have been injured. And these include teenagers and children, minors. And of course, the number of detentions and administrative detentions and even enforced disappearances is quite high. How do you see the situation, and of course the settler violence, as we've seen, which has escalated since October 7th? How do you see that, and the people's anger, not just towards Israel, but also the government in the occupied territories?
Well, if we count since the beginning of last year, we have 540 Palestinians killed in Gaza, in West Bank, and including 60 children. And it goes on. They kill people every day. And more than that, the West Bank is totally reoccupied by Israeli army. The Palestinian Authority has no authority whatsoever anymore. Israel took over. There isn't any Palestinian city that is not invaded regularly by the Israeli army, creating a lot of clashes with the civilian population. And there is a huge amount of people arrested. Since the 7th of October, Israeli army arrested 6,000 Palestinians in the West Bank. And the number of Palestinians in Israeli jails today from the West Bank is 8,000 plus 3,000 in Gaza who were kidnapped. Many of them are women, many of them are children. We know that there is a very bad torture practiced against these prisoners. Seven of our prisoners in the West Bank have been killed because of torture in Israeli prisons since the 7th of October. An unknown number of Palestinian prisoners from Gaza were also killed, either by field assassination, field execution, or by torture. Israel is doing whatever it wants, and there is no accountability whatsoever here. But the West Bank itself has been divided in 224 small islands, separated from each other by 560 military Israeli checkpoints. A trip that usually takes 30 minutes now could take 2.5 hours or 3 hours, if at all possible. And 750,000 settlers are armed to their teeth and encouraged by the Israeli army to attack the Palestinians in several places. Already 30 Palestinian communities have been evicted by Israeli illegal settlers. So we are facing the army, and we are facing settler terror, and we are facing arbitrary arrest all the time, including more than 250 children who are arrested. And Israel is using the British mandatory emergency law, which allows it to arrest people for unlimited periods of time without even charging them. So we're talking about people who have been in jail for 10 years without knowing why. And it goes on. So really, this is one of the most awful places in the world now in terms of persecution, oppression, and occupation.
We have seen that, even when the Gaza situation happened, protests and people coming out on the roads, understandably so, in parts of, in the West Bank and Jerusalem and elsewhere, wherever people could. So now, where do you see this helplessness or this anger and all of this going at the moment? Yes.
It goes only in one direction, that we should all struggle for our freedom. And all the Israeli oppression and all this American support to Israeli oppression and all this European support from many countries in Europe to Israel will not stop us, will not stop our demand for freedom and for ending this terrible injustice. And we have no other way but to struggle for our rights in every possible way. So that's the only thing we can do. And otherwise, we have to accept what Smotrich said, the finance minister of Israel, who said that they will fill the Palestinian territories in the West Bank with settlers and settlements so that we lose any hope of a state of our own. And he said that Palestinians then will have to choose between leaving, which is ethnic cleansing that they are trying to conduct in Gaza, or accept a life of subjugation to Israel, which is apartheid, or die, as he said, meaning genocide. The options for us are very clear. Either we steadfast and struggle and get our freedom, or we will all vanish. And we will not accept that. We will continue to struggle till we overcome.
Dr. Barghouti, there is an international movement at the moment in support of Palestine, which people are saying, and as we've seen in the past years, it's sort of unprecedented, the way people have come out on the roads. And despite the censorship, despite the underreporting of the story and how the mainstream Western press has dealt with it, the story is still there. People are using alternative methods to connect and communicate. Of course, a big role has been played by the journalists in Gaza itself and Palestine at large. How do you see that shift? And do you think this is a legitimate shift in support of Palestine internationally?
Yes, there is a wide global revolution against Israeli oppression. And I think Palestine has become, contrary to what Israel wanted, through normalization with Arab countries, with the aim of liquidating the Palestinian cause. What happened is exactly the opposite. And now Palestine has gone back to be the most important human cause of our life and of the world. And we want this solidarity to translate also into acts of sanctions on Israel. Boycott, divestment, sanctions, and also into acts of pressure on the United States to stop this terrible support to Israel. And I think that would help. But this global revolution is happening regardless of Israelis' effort to prevent the truth from coming out, to silence us. You know that they did not allow any foreign journalist into Gaza except one who was allowed only for 3 hours from CNN, and that's it. And they killed 118 Palestinian journalists in Gaza during the last 3 months. They also killed 303 of our health doctors and health medical workers and doctors, and they injured 300 others. But that will not stop us. We will continue because it's our faith. We don't have any other alternative but to struggle for our freedom. We've had 75 years of expulsion and ethnic cleansing. We had 56 years of military occupation. Nobody should tolerate that, and this should not be allowed to continue.
Dr. Barghouti, thanks very much for your time and for your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.